this. And Bruce, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was just mentioning. I was talking in the first segment. D1 baseball announced that there's going to be some sort of All Star event where they're bringing college players down to the College Station Bryan area, and
Yeah.
they'll have them out try out. It's almost like a league of their own. They'll all
Right.
try out, and then they'll put them on four different teams. And I checked with Josh this morning. He said there aren't any Cowboys, but I mentioned to the audience, the very precious Bruce Waterfield calendar, which yesterday I turned. I was about 4 days late, but I turned finally to May because with this pandemic, there hadn't been really an urgency to turn the calendar
Yep, I
at the
get
end
it.
of each month. But I was glad when I turned it yesterday to see Josh in the dugout with arms raised after the final out and winning the
Yep.
Big 12 championship. I wanted to get you on, and I told the audience about this. You're the official photographer for Oklahoma State sports athletics with
Right.
the athletic department.
Yep.
I know with our publication, Pat Kennison does a lot of our pictures with us,
Yep. I
and
like
I think
Pat.
Pat
I'm on
does
the,
a
on the
terrific.
sidelines with him. Yep.
Yeah, Pat. I think Pat does a terrific job. It's not his day job like it is yours,
Right.
but I'm always impressed with. I've written, and of course, I got my degree at Oklahoma State, and we had to take photography, and I was a camera. I did operate a camera at
Right.
Channel 4 in sports. I
Yep.
would videotape games, and you kind of had to do a little bit of everything, and I love that. In fact,
Yep.
um, I would study some of the guys, and actually went to a course with NFL films, and I just
Yep.
loved it. But Bruce, it amazes me the pictures that especially you get, including this one. You got to be in the right place at the right time to
Yeah.
get this
We can't get
picture.
everything, but it is a dream job, and it is just unbelievably fun. I can't believe you and I were here in school at the same exact time, and so our OSU roots run pretty deep, and just to be able to have the best seat in the house to every event is is an amazing experience. But it's funny you led off with baseball because I'm really missing baseball right now. That's kind of my deal. I love baseball. Kevin Clintworth, who is my boss, always tells me, he said, you really don't have to shoot every event. When you have a baseball series, he goes, go shoot it on Friday night, maybe shoot it again on Sunday, but you don't have to be there. But I can't stand it. I have to be there for every single game, and I just love me some baseball, so I'm really missing that at the moment. And I had not planned a vacation through the end of June because I was fully expecting to be in Omaha. So we knew it was going to be a special year. So this is a rough one to have to sit out.
I think next year though, we'll have the same opportunity. And I don't know how much. I think you probably do shoot softball too, as well.
I do not as much
Um,
softball. They've got a couple of good photographers over there on their
sure.
staff, and I've always had an operations person. So I try to get over there. Of course, those sports overlap a lot. So I kind of go where the need is greatest, and if they're kind of shooting their own stuff, I'll end up at baseball kind of by default. But yeah, I love shooting softball as well. Both of those sports are near the top of my list. So
Yeah, and Kenny has got man, and just recently added a transfer catcher from UTA, Texas
yeah,
Arlington. Has been a two-time All-Conference catcher that can really hit and throw. And yeah, I next you're in a baseball mood right now, and you're missing
yep,
it.
yep,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your pictures, and yeah, I've seen the pictures at home plate after a home run when the cowboy hat is being passed around, and
right,
that's kind of a cowboy, OSU baseball tradition now.
yep,
Um, you can always shoot a pitcher. Pitchers always are going to give you, something as far as in the middle of their motion, facial expression, and
right,
the way their body's torquing when they're throwing a pitch.
yep.
But I'll tell you the pictures I've seen you take that kind of blow my mind a little bit is some of the stuff you get around second base and the
Right,
action
right.
at second
That
base.
that's where I focus. And part of it, Robert, is access too. I mean, I always joke with people, but a lot of it's true. If you take enough photos, you're going to get some good ones. I usually stand right behind third base over there, and since I'm an employee of OSU Athletics, I get to be on the field, so I probably have a little better vantage point than most people. But I tend to focus there at shortstop and second base because that's where the plays happen. But my gosh, I've missed a bunch of them too. There's nothing worse than, getting a fantastic play there at second, and you're back focused on the guy in the outfield or something. But it's sometimes they're tough to get. Baseball will lull you to sleep, and all of a sudden you'll miss the most exciting thing of the year if you're not paying attention. So part of it is just really paying attention in baseball because it moves a little slowly sometimes, and then boom, something big happens. So you really got to pay attention.
Well, and I think I've seen so many on whether it's somebody trying to steal and a throw down to second,
Right.
whether it's somebody coming in on a double, whether it's turning a double play.
Right.
Those are the pictures of yours in baseball I tend to remember the most. Are those pictures that you catch in the middle of the infield?
Yeah, well, those are fun. You're exactly right. Those are the ones I try to get. And the reaction shots are fun too. And baseball is a sport that's it's sort of like a marathon. It's a long haul. So you're with these guys a lot. You get to know them, and when you get to know them, they pose for you and act crazy and fun, and you can really get some fun shots. And it's no secret that we probably have the best baseball. Well, not probably. We do have the best baseball staff in the country. I mean, golly, what a bunch of legends.
Oh,
So it's just a fun sport to cover, and they're just awesome. That just because they're the greatest in the country doesn't mean it goes to their heads. They're just great to be around and fun, and just love being around them. So I'm ready
yeah,
ready for
no
next season.
kidding. Yeah,
So
at the start of this season, probably the pictures most in demand, not just around Stillwater but around the country, were pictures of the dugout and getting, you know, uh, Robin Ventura and Matt
yeah,
Holliday standing together, and
yeah,
Josh with them, and
yeah.
you probably spent a lot of time focusing on getting all the shots you needed of the dugout and those guys for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of fun because being here in the '80s, of course, you and I were here at the same time, and
Hmm.
I think you were working for K4 when we had the famous Bedlam Brawl. But
Oh
I
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember all those moments, and now kind of to have a couple of them back and have Robin here, it's pretty surreal because you're just kind of down there, one of the guys with him, and I was talking to a friend of mine in my hometown. And was laughing and just kind of mentioned Robin offhand, and he's like, "Okay, you're mentioning Robin Ventura by first name." And I said, "Yeah,
yeah.
because you do when you're with him all the time. You just kind of get to know
Yeah.
him, and it's a really, really cool experience."
Well, and the cool thing about that when Robin was there, that was one of the most fun teams to cover.
Yeah.
Brad Bean Blossom was one of
So
his
yeah.
teammates who had, incredibly smart guy from Louisville, Kentucky,
Yep.
and great guy. And then a guy who lives here in Edmond now that was Jim Ifland
Yeah.
was
Yep. Yep. We did a feature
absolutely.
on him in Posse magazine. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago, but yeah, we've got some amazing people right here nearby.
So, all right, let's switch to this is just in the news because yesterday it was announced that two Oklahoma State alumni, Ricky Fowler and Matthew Wolf, are going to
Yeah.
play in a charity skins game on the 17th down in Florida against Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson, two world number ones.
Yeah.
So it's going to be impressive. But golf, there's one, and I know you've shot a lot of it.
Yep.
Um, I mean, you've always got when the guy's got the club in the hand, that's always going to be a good shot,
Right.
but you've got to be there when that winning putt is made. I mean, the golf is one kind of a little bit like you were talking about baseball, but even slower
Yep.
and more exacting about being in the right place at the right time to get the best shot.
Yeah,
Golf's
boy, that
hard.
that is absolutely true. And it's funny, when we were wrapping up our national championship out at Karsten, and I think it's the 13th or 14th hole because we were so far ahead. We were wrapping it up pretty early, so I got to that hole ahead of everybody else, and I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. You had thousands of people just converging on that one hole because you knew what was getting ready to happen, and uh, knowing where to be. I didn't know where to be. I just kind of got up on a little ridge behind everybody else and tried to get the best shot I could. And I didn't get the best shot. I think one of the guys over at the Tulsa World got the one that you see everybody of Matthew screaming. I went more, for a wide shot and got the galley in the background and or gallery in the background and went for that shot that's been used a lot too. But yeah, you're right. It's you got to know the moment and kind of try to figure out. And it's some of it's luck too. I didn't know which way he was going to turn once he sank that putt because it was long, but we knew what was getting ready to happen. So yeah, it's a little tricky too. The hardest, maybe the hardest sport to shoot though is wrestling, and that seems a little counterintuitive because you're right there on the mat, and but boy, things happen quickly, and to get them turned at the right direction at the right time is tough. So I've always kind of thought wrestling is the most difficult to shoot, but you get a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of action going on, so you take a whole lot of photos. Maybe shoot 2,000 photos at a wrestling match and get 70 keepers, but it's a tough one to shoot as well.
Well, here's the bad thing on wrestling. I'm looking at it not as much from a still frame angle as I am a video angle. If you
Yep.
want to see the Oklahoma State wrestler a lot, you want to see his face the most, whether
Yep.
whether it's in action or whether it's when they have that, they got to go back and start again, which
Yep.
happens a lot in wrestling.
Yeah.
You need to be behind the OSU bench, which they don't let any media behind, because
Right.
those wrestlers are going to, imperatively, they're going to look at John and they're going to look at the wrestling, the coaching
Yeah.
staff over there. So that's where you get their look more.
That's
But
exactly
you just
right.
don't get
I've
to
taken
shoot
a lot
that
of photos
angle.
with the guys with their arms held up in celebration from behind, and then you have the crowd. You get the crowd shot. But yeah, you're exactly right. And then it's tricky around the mat too because you've got the palm squad and the cheer squad kind of in between there in the middle, and so it can get a little tricky shooting wrestling. But it's one that you really have to anticipate because you never know when that takedown's coming. So
No.
I can't tell you how many photos I have of you think a guy's getting ready to take a shot, so you start snapping and he doesn't take the shot. But it's tricky.
Let's talk about a couple of the other sports too. And, football, it's just amazing. Chuba and Tylen are two right now that are playmakers.
Yep.
And, eh, you know, they're not thinking about having their picture taken while they're playing. No
Right.
doubt about it. But
Yep.
those two guys, for being in the middle of the heat of the action,
Yeah.
they some way, and it's just I just think it's something about them, not necessarily anything they're doing on purpose. We know that because they're
Right.
playing. They're not even thinking about it.
Yep.
But those two guys, for guys in the middle of the action, they seem to be extremely photogenic throughout.
Yeah, they
the
are.
entire
They really are.
contest.
I've gotten some good photos of both of those guys, and there was another player here a few years back that you might remember, Charlie Moore. He
Sure.
was another receiver that always just seemed to be turned in the right direction. You can get the beautiful shot of the crowd behind him, him up in the air, in the right light. And then there's other guys that are just hard to get. Dylan Stoner, he is a playmaker all over the field.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it took me 2 years before I get a good photo of him because he'd catch that ball way up in the air, but he'd be turned the wrong direction, and then I don't know. It was just certain people are harder to shoot than others. So you're right. But Chuba's a good one to shoot. Mason was a little bit tough to shoot. I got some good photos of him, and of course he played so many games at long last. But he was a little tougher one to get good shots of. But yeah, there's certain players that are just easier for whatever reason. I don't know what that is, but the trick for photography is you really want to get their eyes. So
Yes.
getting that focus. If Chuba's running at you head on, which he kind of does, that makes it a little bit easier because you don't want to focus on the on the face mask, or you don't want to. There's so many things your camera can focus on besides the eyes, but Chuba in particular gives you a good opportunity to get a good, nice, crisp shot of the eyes. So that's always good.
Especially when he's running west to east.
Yep.
Because as much as any back we've ever had here, and of course that big board in the east end zone hadn't been there but a couple of
Right.
seasons.
Yeah.
But he uses it all the time.
Yeah.
So you're going to get those eyes really big because he's looking up at that board trying, okay, where is everybody?
Yep.
And man, he is so good at it, and it does make for a better shot for you guys.
Yeah, no, it does. It's funny. It's kind of a tricky lot, depending on what's on that video board when they're running, toward Gallagher Iba. It can be a little hard because when it's pure orange light, or depending on the time of
Yeah.
day, it creates either a really really good effect or a really really bad effect for us photographers. But generally, it's good. I mean, it makes it a little tricky sometimes, though. But yeah, you're right. Those guys watch that.
You mentioned quarterbacks. Whedon was always pretty photogenic too. I haven't seen
Yep.
too many bad shots of Whedon during his
Yeah.
Oklahoma State days.
Yeah, he was good. My first year to shoot actually was the Fiesta Bowl season, so this will be my 10th year. I guess it's my decade celebration for shooting for OSU sports, for OSU athletics. But yeah, I started off at the Fiesta Bowl. That was my first season, so I have very good memories of the Whedon to Blackman era.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. I've told this story a couple of times. I was at the Ardmore Plainview played. God, who was it they played? Team from up in Tulsa, Victory Christian, I think,
Uh huh.
um, in the state championship this year. And after the game, I was down on the field, and this guy grabs. He says, "Mr. Allen." I turn around, and it's Justin.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I heard he
And
was still around down there. That's awesome.
yeah, he's down in Ardmore, and he was wearing a white sweater, and literally look, because I had heard from somebody that he'd kind of gotten out of shape,
Yeah,
and he looked like he could have played that day.
good.
And he was friendly, and hey, it's good to see you. And I said, you really need to get back to Stillwater. And
Yeah.
he told me, he goes, the funny thing, he goes, I came up there this fall one day during the week,
Mhm.
and he goes, I was really looking for Gary
Yeah,
Calcagno, and I
Cacagna.
wanted to
Yeah.
say hi to him, and I was going to go by the football office. And he goes, I got up there, and I just kind of lost my nerve a little bit, and just
Huh.
drove back to Ardmore. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
he's got friends here. That's crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
he was another one that was a lot of fun. Good, great guy. Just a great
oh,
guy.
yeah. I mean, and he seems. I've asked him if he wanted to come on the show, and he says, someday I will. But he's just kind of reclusive, so that he's not really wanting to do that. But it was great to see him because he looked great. Hey,
Yeah.
last thing, because we got to
Mhm.
let you go, but
Okay.
you also are involved in a lot of what I would call portrait shots, not just action, but you shoot a lot of the portrait stuff that they do.
Right.
And I mean, you've got, I, God, I don't want to say, I shouldn't say this, but I will. After shooting action, portraits kind of got to be, oh, really? We got some more portrait shoots today? Come
No,
on.
that's
But,
kind of
but,
not true at all. It's really funny because I had not done much studio work at all, before,
hmm
well, really until the last few years. But now, and that's what people probably don't really realize is, they see us at all the games and think kind of that's what we do. That's probably about 30% of my job. The rest of it is, shooting either recruits that are coming through the studio. We gear those guys up, take pictures of them in the studio when they're here, on their recruiting visits, which that's become a huge thing. But also, we bring every single student athlete through the studio here now to get shots, for social media. So that way, if a guy makes a big play at a baseball game or whatever it is, softball, we can immediately throw up a graphic with a nice studio shot in it. It just looks better. So that way, we've actually got social media photos, archived every single year of every single student athlete. So yeah, about 60% of my time at least is spent in the studio. So I've it's fun. I've actually gotten to where I really like it, and it's been kind of a road getting there and trying to figure it out. But I do enjoy it. But you're right. Yeah, a lot of it's done in the studio.
yeah. And I mean, it probably makes you appreciate the times out in the fresh outdoors, and covering the events as well. But like you say,
Yeah,
studio shooting, between the lighting, and I mean, that really, it's just like shooting an interview in television.
yeah,
If you don't get the face lit, if you don't, come back, and your news director is going to say that's pretty crummy. That's a really crummy
That's
job.
exactly right, and
You
it
know.
really shows up in the studio. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're all ready to get back to work. I'm this, it's been a nice little bit of time off, but I've spent a lot of time out at my place cutting cedars and just taking some vacation time, and it's time to get back to work. I was laughing with Stephen Howard the other day. He's in charge of women's golf as part of his SID duties, and he called me and said,
Sure.
"Hey, we've got one of our graduates just happens to still be in town, and she would like to get some graduation photos taken." So it had been so long since I'd been out shooting. It's been like 6 weeks. So I ended up with like 2,000 photos of her. We went all over campus and shot her in her cap and gown. I thought, man, we need to get back to work because I spent a lot of photos of her on campus, but it was just fun getting back
uh,
out there and doing something. So
yeah.
we're
Good.
chomping at the
Good
bit
for
to get
her
back to work.
parents. Her parents have a lot of choices.
That's right. I sent her all her photos this morning, so hopefully she'll like them. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a long road, but we're ready to get back to work.
Hey, Bruce, appreciate it. And again, I hope people appreciate your talents because I do. I enjoy just going through the Flickr albums and just looking at the pictures because I think you do a great job of capturing pretty cool moments like the one I'm looking at Josh up here on my calendar. So that
Well, that
calendar
was a fun
is
moment.
pretty
Well,
cool.
I appreciate that, but I can't let it go without being said. I mean, we've got some really talented photographers here in the athletic department. I mean, Peyton Offill, who's one of our
Yes.
graphics guys upstairs, he's a great photographer, and Olivia Ramirez, who's also, she's upstairs, and of course Courtney Bay. Everyone's kind of gotten to know her.
Oh
She's
yeah.
an amazing photographer, although she has other duties, doing graphics and handling everything for basketball. But yeah, we've got some talent here, that's for sure, and it's a fun place to work.
Hey, Bruce, we appreciate it and thanks for coming on.
You bet, Robert. Thanks anytime.
All right, Bruce Waterfield, the official photographer for Oklahoma State.